All right. I want to welcome you to another episode of the Jack Hakimian Podcast. And today I have an amazing young man who I've had a chance to see grow up and he's doing incredible things. He's going to do incredible things. His name is Judah Brown. And just so you guys know, Judah also plays basketball for the South Alabama Jaguars. And he has an amazing career as a young basketball player and academic and someone that loves God. And it's going to be exciting to hear a little bit about his testimony. Let me go ahead and introduce him right now. Mr. Judah Brown, how are you today, my man?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Now, I did some research on your background, and I can see, number one, your name is Judah Brown, and you're born April 12th, 2002. And you're son of Janathan and Melissa Brown, who we have the pleasure of knowing, and incredible family. You have two sisters, Tatiana, Eliana, five brothers, Simeon, Elijah, Joshua, Joseph, and you guys adopted, I believe, Lionel, right?
Correct. Yeah.
All right.
Unofficially adopted.
Unofficially. Yeah. And your family lives in Southern California. Your favorite movie is Remember the Titans, which we're going to talk about because that's one of my favorite movies. Facing the Giants. Your favorite book is Why the Best Are the Best, and your favorite sports team is FC Barcelona. All right, soccer fan. Your favorite athlete is Lionel Messi. Your favorite musical artist is Lecrae and Kirk Franklin, and you enjoy horseback riding and knitting. That's going to be an interesting conversation. And you've played for the Panamanian national basketball team. Okay, you also went. For high school, you went to Pacifica Christian High School in Newport Beach. You average team best 16.6 points and 9.1 rebounds for the Tritons, and you won the CIF Championship as a freshman. And also, you played in the San Joaquin League title. You were named to All-CIF Division 2A team. You also played for the Dream Vision and Oakland Soldiers club team. Now in college, I don't know if this is still your major, but according to the record, it says that you are communications studies. Is that still true?
So it was before I transferred. When I transferred, some of my classes didn't transfer over. So I just finished my degree in interdisciplinary studies, and now I'm doing organizational leadership for my grad school. So a little different now. Yeah.
Okay. And then you played at St. Mary's in California, Division I school. You appeared in 21 games. This is in 2020, 2021. Five starts as a true freshman. You average 8.7 minutes per game. We'll talk a little bit about that experience. And then you scored a career high of 16 points against number one Gonzaga. You're shooting 4 out of 6 from beyond the arc. Career high was 26 minutes. And in 2021-2022 season, you appeared in 18 games. You averaged 4.5 minutes per game, scored a season high points, 8 points against how do you say that? Stanislaus State, and against San Diego State. You improved your shooting percentage from 27.5% as a freshman to 37.9% as a sophomore. And you appeared in both NCAA tournament games for the Gales. And let me see here. And in 2022-2023, you made 16 starts and 32 appearances in your first season with the Jaguars, Southern Alabama. And you averaged 6.4 points and 2 out of 8 rebounds per game. Big improvement. And then you tied or set a new career high in every major statistical category, including points, rebound assists, steals, and minutes. And then you went a perfect 4-4 from beyond the arc against Louisiana, led the team in three-point percentage at 40.8%, and you're second on the team in blocks, 21. And then in 2023 to 2024, you started in 6 games and made 21 appearances. In your second season in South Alabama, you averaged 5.6 points and 3.1 rebounds per game, career high of 21 points against Mobile. And you suffered a 2-month injury. This is as of recent. against Nichols and November 16th before returning to action against James Madison on January 11th. And so here we are in 2024, post-January, and I know that we're going to have interesting conversation on your career from high school to St. Mary's to the Jaguars, the things you've learned. And I also want to pick your brain on the transfer portal and what is life like in the NCAA, especially for younger athletes, men and women of faith who are definitely looking for an experience in collegiate sports on a high competitive level. And just want to find out how your faith and the things you've learned are transforming your life now and what's next in your life. Before we take a quick break and come back, what do you sense is the thing that you really want to talk about in this podcast today?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think all the topics we've kind of discussed would be good, but I think one thing I have really want to get out is just kind of bring awareness to like the inside life of collegiate athletes. A lot of times people see like the outside, but you don't really see the inside. And we'll kind of get into that with kind of what comes up with NIL and that type of thing. But also just like the mental health side of it. Like a lot of people don't see that side of collegiate athletes. They don't see that, like what really goes on. And so that one's a big one that doesn't get talked about a lot. So I'll probably say that.
Okay, good. It's going to be good. We're going to be right back, and we're going to dive deeper into the life of Judah Brown and what it's like to thrive and survive in post-high school college environment.
Welcome to the Jack Hakimian Podcast, where we dive deep into life, embracing the contrast. From culture to faith, art to finances, politics and everything in between, we're taking chances. Jack Hakimian Podcast, we shine a light, exploring all the life from day to night. Nothing is off the table, we keep it real. Diverse perspectives, the truth we reveal.
All right, so we are back. So let's, Judah, I've had a chance to see you really develop just as a person and just a young man of integrity. What has it been like, leaving Pacifica and then going to St. Mary's? Like, what was that transition like? It's like, college students going into the NBA. Like, what was some of the things that you initially experienced that was both a blessing and also very difficult?
I think I got to give props to my high school, Pacifica Christian, because they did a really good job in preparing the students and especially athletes to make that next move, to go into college. So a lot of the things that we would do in high school, a lot of the things like our practice style, but not only practice in the classroom as well, the level of academics, all those type of things, really prepared you well for to go into college. So I have to give them a lot of props because it wasn't a terrible transition. I will say that one of the hard part about it was, for me, it was probably trying to find your people away from home. You have your athlete family, obviously. That's one of the pros about being a collegiate athlete is a lot of times when you go to a new school, when you go to a new place, you automatically have your teammates and you're going to be with them the majority of the time. You're going to be spending hours upon hours practicing with them, all that type of stuff. So you have those guys. But also I think it was outside of that. The hardest part for me was, I think it was finding my my Christian family, my Christian friends, that type of base. And that's another topic that I think is important, especially for Christian athletes. I think that's one thing I advise other Christian athletes and other people going into school. Like my little brother's about to go to college right now. And I tell him and all his friends, like, I think the most important thing for someone going into college, especially as a Christian athlete, especially as a Christian student, is to find that body, to find that community of people who will pour into you, who, iron sharpens iron, who all those people who will sharpen you in your faith and all that type of stuff. So I think that was the hardest transition for me, especially coming from a Christian school where all these people like pushed you and challenged you in your beliefs, but also helped you grow in your faith. So I would say that was probably the hardest transition.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Did you find that, St. Mary's and just college life, came with a lot of temptations? Because I know that a lot of high schoolers that leave high school and being under their parents' home, they kind of go buck wild. And I was a college, youth pastor for many years, and some of my college students went crazy. But I noticed that the ones who were grounded in community and discipleship, they tended to just be more sober about adult life and freedom. But did you find that the temptation and the freedom was kind of, overwhelming?
I think you hit it right on the nail when you said, a lot of the people who find that community, it's a lot easier to stay grounded. And I thank my parents, like to this day, I still thank them constantly about for giving me that foundation, because if I didn't have that like true foundation and them pouring into me and pouring into my faith and allowing me to grow in that, when I got to college, I would have gone crazy, because it was hard. It was really hard because I came in 2020, the COVID year. So my first year, there wasn't really people on campus. We had no fans in the stadium, anything like that. So a lot of my first year of college was a lot of isolation, a lot of, and so with that come a lot of different types of feelings. I think I tell my mom that was probably like the darkest couple years of my life, which is a completely other story. But those were like extremely tough years. And I think part of the reason I didn't go like crazy was because of that foundation. Now, I will say, like you said, when people who find that community, it's a lot easier to stay grounded. And I will say I didn't find that community until I actually transferred here to South Alabama. So those first 2 years, I would say I struggled a lot more than I did ever before in my life. I don't think it was necessarily because, you just go into college and that's kind of like the narrative that gets put on, like once you go to college, you go crazy. But I think it had to do with the fact that, you don't have your community, you don't have your family there, you don't have these people, that community. So I think that was a big factor of that. But and the foundation my parents gave me, like really, really carried me,
Yeah, and did you see a difference, like, as playing in Division I, right? There's a lot of talent, from all across maybe the states, United States. Did you notice? Is there a difference between kids who have a lot of support and family? Because I know that your parents and your family's like, there's a whole army of you guys, and the support system is incredible. I mean, it's like on a probably next level. But did you find that some of your colleagues or co-athletes and just students in general that didn't have that support, that there was an extra struggle, or did the school supplement, and how'd that play out, in real life, when Christmas comes around and stuff like that?
Yeah. So that's funny you asked that question, because I never really thought of that before. But now that I like think about it and really look into it, I think there's a sense of ease that comes with players who are, for example, St. Mary's had a lot of Australian, athletes. They would recruit from Australia a lot, and a lot of those guys knew each other from before, and so I feel like that played a factor of there's a lot more ease in being able to play freely. There's a lot more ease and confidence in knowing like you have your people around you. Again, it goes back to that sense of community. And so for me personally, when you didn't really have that community, you don't really know people, it makes it a lot more stressful, whether it be in practices, whether it be in games. It's a lot more stressful. So now that you say that, like a lot of the guys who were closer to home, a lot of the guys who did have those people they were familiar with, all that type of stuff, they were able to play more freely and it wasn't as stressful. And so I would say that. Now, when it comes to the Christmas time, I think it's also a similar a similar feel for everybody because no one really was able to go home too much,
Okay.
unless you like live right by the school, which is a different situation. But like we never really you get a few days here or there for Christmas, and then you're right back at it. So I think it's a similar feel for everybody. But outside of like that, I think it really does play a factor of the people you have around you, whether it's like family, whether it's people from the same area, things like that.
Well, I mean, you have a pretty illustrious career, and I'm here at the South Alabama website, and they really break down your career. When you were at Pacifica Christian High School, I mean, you were pretty much dominating. What was that experience like playing in, Southern California, playing? I mean, there's certain areas that have the most elite high school students. Everyone knows that LA area, Orange County, like these are dominant basketball communities. Chicago, DC, the DC metro area. I think they call it what's it called? I forgot the name. It's Maine, Delaware, and Washington DC. New York, obviously, and I think Florida has historically been a great football state, but now it's emerging in basketball. But what was it like playing on a very elite, high level basketball program in high school? Did you find that to be fun, or was it kind of difficult? Like, what was that experience like? And do you feel like the expectations that were on you in high school, did it create like an over exaggerated expectation when you finally got to St. Mary's, which again is one of the most elite D1 schools in the world? Like, how did that play out with you psychologically?
Yeah, so I think with Pacifica, it was a great field. Honestly, it was great to play against some of like the top competition. Like one of our biggest games was against Rancho Christian, who had at the time Evan Mobley was on that team. There's another Dominic Harris is on that team who is just transferred to UCLA. So they had a lot of good guys over there. But we were able to play against a lot of like the top competition in that area. And honestly, I think our high school coach did a really good job of just preparing us to go out and play hard, no matter who it is against, And so a lot of times you're going against these top talents, but it wasn't really like any different in the mindset because we trained to play hard against anybody. We trained to give our best against anybody. And so a lot of times you play against this competition, but again, like I said, it's a lot of props to Coach Barakoff because no matter who it was against, you're going to get, 100% out of us, Now going into St. Mary's, your question was, how
the expectations of, let's say, a high school and the role you played on the team, how did that play out at St. Mary's, being a very competitive program, and I think somewhat difficult program? As I was looking at your career there, I was upset, because I felt like you didn't get the opportunities that you definitely demonstrated at Pacifica. So what was your thinking? Again, that's just me as a fan. Feeling a little bit frustrated. And I know that's very typical. And that's why the transfer portal, which we're going to discuss, is a big issue, especially this new ruling that just came down, where now kids don't have to wait that year to basically, let me bring it up here on the screen. This is Denver Sports. And of course, they're talking about Deion Sanders. Prime may benefit from game-changing NCAA transfer settlement. And basically, the whole point of this article, if you don't know, those who are listening, is the students don't have to wait another year for their second year. And it was very arbitrary, right? People didn't quite know what to expect. Like, as students didn't know, like some students were able to transfer immediately, some were not. So students, the district judge said, that they can move ahead with this particular allowance. And Wisner's news release writes, this uneven arbitrary enforcement prompted the state attorneys general to sue the NCAA in December, accusing the agency of violating antitrust laws, non-competitive laws, with its unfair restrictions on second-time transfers. The states which were joined in the lawsuit by the Justice Department maintain that the rule infringes on the ability of athletes to freely move to another school where they may have opportunities to compete. So again, I mean, just kind of, look, I know you entered into the transfer portal, but what was that experience at St. Mary, and why did you jump into the transfer portal? And were you as frustrated as I was looking at you not getting, I think, the opportunities that you deserved?
Yeah, so I think I like to say college is a great equalizer. So you can have, the best high school athletes, but once you get to college, it's the great equalizer. Everyone's on the same plane, and you work up from there. And I think I did share a lot of that frustration as well. The biggest thing was the COVID year threw everybody off. COVID has constructed the whole college basketball, college athletics system, because the year I went in, the previous year, the NC tournament didn't happen. And so they gave all those athletes an extra year. And so my class coming in, we had six freshmen coming in, which is a big class. Okay. So you have this big class of freshmen coming in, but all the guys from the previous year still stayed, and all the guys who were on that team got an extra year. So now you're just stacked in every position. And that was kind of the issue I kind of had. And so going into my third year, I was like, we have so many guys, and we have so many guys with extra years. And so that was one of my issues as well, was we just have too many people, and
it felt like every single student and athlete in America was frustrated during the COVID years.
Yeah.
And what an unfortunate time, right? To take someone like you, a top talent, and stick them into a program that has all this talent, and the kids are staying an extra year. And I mean, did you feel like the kids who had already been in the program were favored a little bit more than the newbies? Like, how did that play out? Or was it truly based on merit, meritocracy? What's your thought?
I liked at St. Mary's, a lot of times we had a point system, kind of, where they stat each practice, and each little thing is like points, whether you get a steal or turnovers minus points, or steals plus points, and then that type of thing. And so he kind of played you off of that, but also at the same time, even if your points were super high, a lot of the times the guys who were returners, he knows how they play. They know the system. And so kind of how that system works is the first 2 years, you kind of get a feel for it. You'll get some playing time here and there. And then by the time you're a junior, senior, then you're in the system, and then you're the starters who get all the minutes. And it's just this big cycle, you know what I mean? And so I think it makes sense, because in a way it makes sense, because by the time these guys are juniors and seniors, they know they've played in big games, because every year they're playing against Gonzaga. They're playing in the kennel, I think it is. And so you've been in these big moments, so you know what to expect. And so it makes sense that these older guys are going to be playing more than these younger guys, because it's St. Mary's. So they're going to have a hard schedule. They're going to play all the top teams, They're not going to be easy games, if that makes sense. But I think also this is the other side of the COVID year thing. I think it also gave us freshmen an advantage almost, if you took it, because we got a free year. We got a free year to work out at the collegiate level, play against these top athletes, but also get game time reps for free. You know what I mean? So we got these game time reps. We got to play against like I said, we were in the West Coast Conference, so we played against Gonzaga. We played against San Diego State. We played in the Maui Invitational. I don't know if I think that was my sophomore year. But you get to play these high-level games for free and still have your 4 years. So if you really took advantage of it, you and practice hard, worked out hard, and were able to get some game time reps, it's an advantage in a sense. You know what I mean? So it depends on how you look at it.
Yeah, because I've heard that the coach at St. Mary's is based very disciplined on a point.
Mm-hmm.
Like you gotta really earn the spot. But it does seem like COVID really threw even him into a little bit of confusion, which is understandable. I mean, it's what do you do? Some of these kids want to play an extra year. They know the program, they know the
Mm-hmm.
plays. He trusts them, right? There's player coach trust. But at the same time, though, I know that probably, made you feel like, hey, you're going to miss an opportunity to play the sport in real time, but
Mm-hmm.
potentially even, the draft. I know that every athlete on a college level, whether they're in a junior college or in a Division II, Division I, NAIA, they
Mm-hmm.
want to play pro ball. So how did that
Yeah.
play out, emotionally and psychologically with you? And if not pro ball in America, even pro ball, internationally, as basketball is becoming an international phenomenon, how did that play out with you emotionally? And is that what influenced you to jump into the transfer portal? And then I'm going to ask you some questions about the transfer portal. Do you think it's a blessing or a curse that the NCAA has changed athletes' opportunities to move around schools, and then with NIL, and of course, there's a lot of controversy around Deion Sanders'
Mm-hmm.
kids and players, and the whole energy they bring to the game of football. But that's we'll get to that. But
Mm-hmm.
but again, how'd that influence you emotionally? And was that kind of the cause of you transferring out? Or what was the deal with that?
So I think I got stuck in this mentality of I have to just wait my turn. I have to just wait, in this system, because that's kind of, it wasn't, it was almost like the way we would go is like, the young guys, your time's gonna come. Your time's gonna come. You know what I mean? Like the older guys, they've been here, they've done it. Your time's gonna come. So you get caught in this mentality of, okay, I just wait till it's my time, wait till it's my turn. And I have to thank my mom, because my mom caught it from the beginning, and she was like, no, your time's now. Your time's now. And so that's another part of the reason I jumped in the portal, because you get caught in this mindset of I have to wait. I'm gonna sit back and wait. Until my opportunity comes up. So again, it wasn't one thing, or just this other thing. It was kind of just a way of things, and that's one of those. And one thing moving here has helped is that really that mindset has helped me get out of that mindset of I just kind of have to wait. I just wait around, but more it's no, just go play now. Just go play, A lot of times I think when you're in a very tight system, it's harder to, especially as a young player, it's harder to just go out there and play without the fear of making a mistake, without the fear of being pulled, without, all these different things that, play a factor in, every athlete's head. But especially when you're in an extremely tight, extremely specific organization, I think it works for a lot of people. But I also think it restricts your game almost. It almost kind of puts it in a box a little bit. And
that's interesting that your mom caught it, right? I mean, your mom
mm-hmm.
probably did she know that you tend to lean towards just being a compliant, cooperative?
Yes.
Because I know you have a great attitude, right? And coaches love that. And I do think that you have professional caliber, your skills, your game intelligence, but also something that can't easily be taught, which is attitude, great attitude, and a hunger to learn. Now, but the downside of that is sometimes you can be too compliant and kind of lose that disruptive edginess that's needed in basketball.
Exactly.
You gotta like be willing to break the backboard, kind of thing. You know what?
Yes.
Have you been? What's going on with you? What's God doing with you and that fierceness, like David who fights Goliath? Fierceness. Do you see that like growing? How do you see that growing within yourself?
Yeah. So the term we use is let the lion roar. And so literally the summer I transferred, the whole summer, that's what like me and my mom worked on, was that mentality of just letting it out. Let the lion roar, because the lion's inside of you. And it's funny because lion is a huge symbol in my life. I have like a lion picture in my room, like I have a lion necklace, but it's because the lion of the tribe of Judah won. Leon Altaba, my grandfather's name, Lion, and he's one of the reasons I, play basketball, why I love basketball. But also just like my mom tells me before every game, she'll send a text, she'll call me, and she'll be like, son, let the lion roar, like let him out, just like let loose. That's also like a song I listen to pregame, every game before I go out, take the court. I listen to Lion, and that's basically what it says. It's like, hail, hail, Lion of Judah, let the lion roar. And so I think that goes to what you were saying, how does that demonstrate itself in having that mentality of like the David killing Goliath mentality, that that type of outlook on your sport? Like that's what I've been working on since, transferring. Because I had it in high school. I had that mentality in high school. I had that mentality of just go out there and play. Let the Spirit do what he's going to do through me, and I'm gonna just go hoop. I kind of lost it because of that. That compliance. Where you're like, you feel like, oh, okay, they know what they're talking about. Like I'm gonna just sit back, let them do their thing. You know what I mean? So I would say those 2 years I lost it. And so these past 2 years, being at South Alabama, that's where I've really been working on that mentality of, letting the lion roar, just playing, not worrying about this or that, not worrying about, the little minute things, but just really playing and not worrying about anything.
Nice. So tell me about the transfer portal. Was that a difficult experience? It sounds scary, transfer portal. Like you're gonna go from this world to another vortex. Like what is the portal? Like, is it something like you climb into? Like, I'm a visual, imaginative person. What was that like? Did some people discourage you from doing that? Is there a sense that you're breaking rank? You're being disloyal, and do you encourage what's going on right now with the Justice Department really challenging the NCAA from this control it's had over athletes as far as their name, image, and likeness? Do you, what's your whole thoughts on the transfer portal and the business of a student athlete?
Yeah. So when I got into the transfer portal, my mentality, it's a lot like you're back in high school, essentially, where, you just get a lot of texts, a lot of calls from coaches, things like that. So basically high school all over again, and you just have to repick where you go. Now, when it comes to NIL and all these new rules coming out, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I'm back and forth on it. Because essentially now what we've gotten to is college is semi-pro now, where schools, I think the Power Five just passed this rule with the NCAA or something, how like the school can play athletes directly. We've gotten like NIL where teams are using NIL to and like money to pay athletes to come to their school. So there's a lot of like gray area, but we're to the point now where it's college is semi-pro. You know, you have athletes staying in college because they make more money being in college than going and playing professional. And so once you get to that point, it's like, okay, well, college sports isn't really college sports anymore. It's professional. You know, it's a professional league with, you get some academics too. You know, instead it used to be, and this is why I kind of don't like it, because that changes college sports altogether. But number two is the reason why athletes weren't able to go directly from high school to professional or NBA or whatever it was because you have these young athletes who might not be able to handle these situations. You have these young athletes who, you know, but now, like, you still have that rule, but also at the same time, you're still going to give them more money than they'll be making their like first year playing professional. So it doesn't really add up. So like I said, I have a love-hate relationship for it. I think it's cool to an extent where like I'm happy that college athletes are finally getting like some type of compensation, you know? But now it's to the extent where it's like way, like you're literally getting paid, you know? And half of these people who are in the transfer portal won't go to places because they won't pay them enough, you know? So it's a weird situation now. Absolutely.
And so tell me a little bit about your experience in South Alabama. I mean, it's a big leap between where St. Mary's is in what city again? I know it's North California.
Moraga. Yeah.
A big jump from North California, Moraga, to South Alabama. What was that culture like? What's the culture like there on the team, and what's it like playing for South Alabama?
Yeah, it's a lot different. I think from team-wise, Coach Bennett never really got in the transfer portal, so it weren't like many like transfers. You had guys who were just in the program from their freshman year, and you would just have this cycle where all these guys had been there. So now on the opposite side, Coach Riley is the opposite, where most of his players are transfer portal, you know, and most of his guys are guys who, you know, he goes out and gets from different places. And so it's completely different in that one is a program like you can build like a culture, and that culture continues through each year because all these guys are returners and they know what to expect, they know what to do, and they just teach like the new guys. And that's just kind of how it goes. Opposed to here, it's like each year you just have 6, 7, 8 new guys, and you kind of put these guys together and you kind of go like that. So when it comes to like the team chemistry, the team construct, it's a lot different. But city-wise, I think Mobile is a lot, Alabama, just the South in general, it's a lot slower paced than California. California is very high paced, very like California, you move, you're always moving, you're always on the mission. Mobile is very like slow paced, but also the quality of living, I think, is a lot lower here than it is in California, which makes sense. You know, it's California. But I would say those are the two biggest things.
So how did Remember the Titans inspire you? And did you see any situations where you were in a kind of dysfunctional, you know, whether it's the Panamanian basketball team that you played for? I don't know if that was like Olympic Games or some kind of national tournaments, or whether it was just, you know, playing some random pickup game. Like how you know, what's the thing about Remember Titans that really inspires you, and have you seen that flesh out in your life?
That's a great question. I like Remember the Titans just because of the how he brings them all together, you know. how he rallies his team, and he's like, it doesn't matter where you're from, the color you are, it doesn't matter any of these things. Like, we all have the same goal, and we're all going to go get that goal. I think I've seen two sides of it. St. Mary's, I've seen the side where I go into a program where that is already what's the word? That's already happening. So the unity, the camaraderie, what's the word? I can't think of the word, but basically all these things are already in place, and it's something that, is passed down from each year, each new set of freshmen. Now to here where it's like, now I've taken on kind of trying to create that unity, create that sense of team camaraderie, and doing things like having team meetings, making sure all the new guys feel welcome, and working out with different guys just to make sure like we're all super connected, So I think that movie, there's another one, I can't think of the name of it. There's another football one that's also about like unity. And I like to watch these movies and kind of like steal some things from them and try to place it into what I do here with my guys, So I would say that.
Okay, cool. And so tell me a little bit about the dynamics on the team as far as like the play style of South Alabama versus St. Mary's. What were some of like the defensive and offensive philosophy and strategy that was different as you juxtapose, and just keep it real. Which one did you like more? What fit you more, right? Because not all great teams fit great players. Sometimes a player may be really struggling on a particular team that's a great coaching and great program, but it just doesn't fit their style, and another team is a little bit more fluid or a little bit more transitional. And so how did that play out as far as offense and defense, some of the mechanics and strategy and philosophy between St. Mary's and South Alabama?
Each program's going to have its pros and cons. Each program's going to have its thing where it's like, oh, I like this, I didn't like this, But if I, being on the outside looking in of St. Mary's, you really understand why he scheduled like the practices, how he did, and how he organized it, like why we broke down our offense so much, why we broke down our defense so much, why we broke down everything, like very, very detailed, very, very specific. And that's how you did it every single time, So you have that end of the spectrum where we literally broke down a box out, So you have these guys who've been in college 5 years, and we're all out there, and he's teaching a box out. It's like, okay, like you're here, when the shot goes up, the arm that's closest to that person, you hit him with this arm, then you're going to pivot this way. You know what I mean? So we really like broke down, detailed a box out. We broke down detailed closeouts. What hand goes up, where the other hand's supposed to be. Like, this is too low, this is perfect. You know what I mean? They like very, very detailed. Everything was detailed, and we practiced it and drilled it. Opposed to here, it's not really detailed. It's really here it's mostly playing, where our practices will consist of we come, we warm up, and essentially we just play. We just play pretty much the whole time. And he has Coach Riley has a few things that he's big on. A lot of things is 2 feet, especially when you're finishing, like at the rim, going off 2 feet, when you jump, not going off of 1 foot. And so that's like one of his things that he's very particular about. But other than that, a lot of the time it's like, if it works, it works. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of like two completely different ends of the spectrum, where one's like very detailed, very specific. The other one's like, I have a few things, but if it works, it works, kind of. And so honestly, I see both ends of the spectrum. If I had to say, I wouldn't say which one like is better or worse. If I had to say like what I think would be best in general, I feel like it would be like a mixture of both, where you have like the detailed, you have like the organized, all these type of things, but also at the same time, you have the freedom to be able to play, you know, you have the freedom to be able to make in-game decisions and have the confidence to do that. So I would say probably a mixture of both. Riley's, I think, especially for older guys, is more of a kind of just like a free flowing. Coach Ben's more of a very, very specific, very meaningful, you know. So like I said, very, very opposite ends of the spectrums.
That's great. That's great. Okay. So you prefer free flowing?
Yeah, I think I would prefer free flowing, but also at the same time, I think.
Do you feel like? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
No. I'd rather hear your thoughts. You're more.
I think free flowing is good, but you need to free flow in a certain direction, if that makes sense. You know, you need to be free flowing in like confines of, you know, some detail, some organization, some, you know, and so that's why it's like a mixture of both, where it's like you're not too overly detailed where now you're like scared to do anything else, but you're not too free flowing to where it's just wild, you know, like a happy, like right in the middle type, if that makes sense.
Okay, cool. Who do you think would win in a matchup? Yourself?
St. Mary's.
Huh? And why do you say that?
Well, one, I think defensively, they're one of the best teams in the country, you know, and they're like that year in, year out. It's just their defensive schemes, how connected they are defensively, is just off the charts. I think one of the ways they really beat teams is their pace. I think this is one thing I didn't get into in like the difference in teams. St. Mary's plays slow. They will break you down both ends, you know? So they're going to come down. They're going to run their offense. They're going to make you play defense for a long time. And then they're going to get whatever they want, you know? And then defensively, they're going to have defensive schemes. They're going to be locked in on defense. Their rotations are going to be perfect, you know? And that's kind of like what you get with like the organized, the detailed, the very specific. And I think that's the one thing that breaks teams is they're going to play very detailed. They're going to play very slow, and they're not going to make many mistakes for 40 minutes, you know? And so I think that would be the one reason they probably have an edge.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the coach is very. Would you say like the coaching leadership is very more? They're a lot more stricter, stringent, tighter, tougher than, let's say, South Alabama.
Yeah, I would. I think it's I would.
Okay, cool.
I think it's funny though, because I want to get into coaching after I'm done playing for however long I play. And this is one thing I like. I have conversations with my mom all the time. And one of the conversations I've had with her is, as a player, I probably I wouldn't change anything I did. Like I wouldn't, like if I could go back, but I still transfer. Yeah. But as a coach, I understand everything that Coach Bennett does. I understand his whole process. I understand. And that's why he wins, you know? And so if I could go and coach with him, I would do it in a heartbeat, you know, because just to get like his mind on his process behind what he does. And like I said, they're one of the best defensive teams every year, but they don't have the best athletes, you know, they don't have the highest recruits. But every year they're always a good rebounding team. They're always a good defensive team. So I think Coaching wise, I would definitely love to coach with him.
Well, here's a clip from one of your games. This is against Maryland. I think it was last year.
I think I was injured that game.
Oh, were you?
I think so, yeah.
But it's interesting how they played.
Kevin Willard said he was surprised to see Richie Riley doing that lately, but figured it would continue tonight. And South Alabama's on the board first in the third one against Villanova.
Well, what Kevin Willard has said about their offense, if they have some stagnant offense, it's tough for them to get into their press.
So I don't know. Did you guys win that game?
No, we ended up losing.
Okay. Well, and I saw this workout on you doing this pro workout on YouTube. I'm gonna play this and tell me a little bit about what this was about and what is your workout philosophy and strategy after.
All right.
Keep going. Good. Nice. Now, I want you to reach the breath. Good. 1. Good. 2. There it is. 3. Good. There it is. Good. Good. First one. Get up. Good. Second one. Throw it apart. Good. Let's go 5. Second one. Good. Nice. Third one. Over more, partner. Good. Nice. Fourth one. Go. Good. Nice. Fifth one. Go. Good. Go. Good. Right away. 1. Good. Next one. Yep. Get there. Good. Next one. Get there. Come on. 4. Up. Good. There we go. Good. That's 1. Get up. Nice. Now 3. Good. Nice. Pull up. Beautiful. Stay in the corner. We're just going to go 5 pull. Nice job. You yell 1 time.
Is Alabama's philosophy of offense one of like plurality and shared ball? I know that some coaches, even on a NBA level, do not like. They don't want a Steph. It's not that they don't want Steph Curry, but their goal is to have an even spread, right? You don't want Steph Curry scoring 50 points a game so you can win. Like that's just it's making you very volatile and fragile as a team if you're depending on one player.
One guy.
You know?
Right.
And obviously, like you'll take whatever you can get, when it comes down to it, especially in the playoffs. But solid teams have role players and have 2 or 3 stars and maybe one elite star that really sticks out. How was South Alabama's offensive philosophy? And do you feel like you touched the ball enough, or do you feel like it was good in relation to the philosophy of the coach? You saw yourself just really being more of a role player than being an actual clutch player, or even more of just a scorer. What was going on there in the offense, and do you feel good about it? Like you played into the system of the coach?
Yeah. So my first year, I would say I think it was more of a role. I think we had really good guard. We had a really good guard who knew how to get to the rim, get to his floaters, his layups, all that type of stuff. But he was really good at finding players too. So a lot of pretty much all of our offense was through him. Now this past year was for sure my best year. And it started out you like from the looking at the stats, you weren't able really to see the drastic improvement because I started out better than I've started any of my college years, but then I went down probably 4 or 5 games in, something like that, and I was out for 2 months. And being out that long really, messes up rhythm, really, and you have other guys in rhythm, and so that's kind of. After that point, you're already in conference play. So I wasn't really able to get back to where I started off, my this past year. So my first year, I think, it was more of a role player. But this past year, I opened the year off as one of those players, like you were saying. You have teams where you have like the star players, and then you have like the role players. And so last year, I think it was a great situation to be where I was one of those main players, along with Turbo, who was probably our main player last year. But given injuries, it didn't really play out that way. And so to answer your question, the first year, but in the second year, I kind of grew even more. And so this year it's positioning myself now to be, the leader, to be the guy where it's like,
man, I'm excited.
yeah.
I'm excited. So how did your injury affect you psychologically? And of course, just the sense of loss of time, right? I mean, there was a loss of opportunity. How many games were you out? Was it frustrating, like just watching the game and not being able to play it? What's your thoughts on that?
Man, there was a lot of psychological stuff that went with that injury. Because it was weird, because it was an injury that you should have been out like not that long. But because of the nature of the injury, it's just a broad range of, you could come back from 3 weeks to 2 months. You know what I mean? The way I got hit, it really messed up a few of the tendons. And so that's why it took a lot longer. And so it was a mental battle of, okay, well, what do my coaches think? Like, do they just think I'm just not trying to play? Do they just think I'm milking it? Because no, if I could be here, I would be out there. I didn't want to sit, I was having a great year. I was, getting the ball. I was able to make plays, all that type of stuff. So in my head, I'm like, no, it's not that type of thing. But what are my coaches thinking? What are my guys thinking? Are they thinking Juju's still in the boot? He was he's still weeks later, you're still in the boot. You're not able to really walk yet. What's going on? And then on the other hand, in athletic wise, it's man, I go out and then my teammate the person who took my spot goes off, and he has the best 4 or 5 games of his career, and he's just going off. And so now you're like, man, when I get better, what's this going to look like? Because he's in a role. I've been out for a while. Am I going to be able to, am I going to have my position back, or is the coach going to keep him in because these guys are playing, well together? They're in a role, they have a groove. So I think it definitely was a lot of mental. I would say that's probably the worst mentally over an injury I've had, just because the nature of the injury, the timing of the injury. I've broken my tibia before and been out for a year, but that was a different situation. It was in the summer. It was the 8th grade year. So it's not to this extent, I guess. And so I would say definitely there were a lot of mental battles that came with that injury that you just kind of had to work through. So yeah,
absolutely. So what's next, man? I heard that you graduated, but you're going to take your COVID freebie option. What's that about? and so what's next for you?
Yeah. So before graduating, I talked to a couple guys who know agents and things like that. And I could go play overseas.
Okay.
Even if I didn't want to take this year, I could go play overseas. My personal goal is to not play overseas. I don't really want to go overseas just because I like to stay home. I'm a homebody. Like I said earlier, I think being close to family, being close to, your people, really helps. So being in a foreign place, probably not speaking the language, having to deal with all that type of thing I don't think it's an ideal situation for me. So the reason I took my 5th year was I know I can go play overseas, but I'm going to try and have the best year I can this year so that I can try and get a G League contract or a 2-way contract where I can play here in the States, and then work up to my goal of, getting a 2-way contract, getting a, 10-day contract, and then, signing for the rest of the year and then getting an NBA contract. So that's kind of the goal of this year, is to, have the best year I can, have the best year possible. And then hopefully staying, being a G League, a 2-way contract, something like that. And going from there. But if not, like I said, I can go play overseas somewhere. So that's kind of the goal after this year.
Okay, great, man. All right. So this year so you will be playing for South Alabama this year.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited, man. I'm gonna try to, get out there from Miami and see some of your games in the flesh. I know my sons got a chance to see you, I think, against Florida Atlantic.
Yeah.
And they had a great time. All right, man. If anyone's watching this as a recruiter, as a potential team that you would like to play for on a pro level, what do you have to say to them? Let's say you're in the room with a general manager or someone in the recruiting department. This is pre-draft recruitment. They're looking at talent, or someone that's going to be looking at you in the draft of 2025-26. What's your message to them? What do you have to say to them?
Yeah, simple. I've never been a person that's all about I don't need all the gear. I don't need all, that's not what, why I do this, all I need is an opportunity, and that's it. A lot of guys are, especially nowadays, like I was saying earlier, with the NIL, it's all about, all about the money. It's all about the gear. It's all about, what are you going to give me? All that type of stuff, but for me, really, it's just I just need an opportunity, and I'm going to work my butt off, and that's it. I'm not into the antics of everything else. Just give me an opportunity and I'll pay it off.
Man, that's amazing, man. And I know that your faith plays a huge role in the way that you think as a team player, that can not only lead but also support. But it also affects your personal life, which I think at the end of the day, the NBA is trying to realize that virtues matter. It's not just about skills, but virtue. But skills are critical, right? But virtue matters, meaning that the person is going to show up and give it everything they got, and be part of that program and help that team become a playoff and eventually a championship team. How has your faith, in ways that people do not see, really affected not only your character as a student and academician, but also as a player, as a son, as a businessman? Because obviously, entertainment, sports is entertainment, and entertainment is essentially business. How do you think your faith that has influenced that already, and will most likely inform and influence it in the future? That's my last question for you.
I think as Christian athletes, as Christians in general, we have, I'm not going to lie, it's not like a cheat code, but, we have the ultimate helper, and I think we have an advantage if we really lean into him. And so for me, when it comes to athletics, especially like in the transfer portal, just in my everyday living, it's a thing of seeking him first, and once I seek him, once I make sure to actively go seek God first, he's going to make my path straight, so I don't need to worry about what I need to do next. I don't need to worry about all these other things, because I know, okay, if I go to God first, if I make sure that I'm right with him and I'm seeking him, everything else will align. I kind of think of it as a horizontal and vertical axis, right? Where if your vertical is offline, if the vertical is here, then the horizontal is going to be off, and the horizontal is the things around everything you have going on earthly things, But if you're right vertically, if you're right with God, everything will line up, So for me, I would say that's the biggest thing. Just making sure to seek him first and making sure to put him first, and everything else will line up. And I think that's one of the things that I've been learning a lot more lately. One of the things that they haven't updated yet. One of my favorite movies is War Room. That's the other one that's on there. And that one's about prayer. And I think prayer has been one of the big things he's been teaching me in not only seeking him through his word and worship, but also we've become I could go a long time on this, but we've become a people who have faded away from prayer. We love to worship, we love to sing, we love to, read the Bible, all that type of stuff. But when it comes to true prayer, sitting down and praying, and sitting down and not just for a couple seconds, one little prayer, you get up, move about your life, but really spend time in prayer, seeking him and hearing from him. That's one thing God's really been, teaching me. But to get back to what I was saying, it's just really just seeking him, because everything else will work out after that.
Man, that's beautiful, man. Man, I really appreciate your spirit, and I know Romans 8 says, "For all things work out for the good to those who love God and are called according to his purpose." Even when life it sucks and it's painful, nothing's working out, that is actually gonna fuel you like fertilizer. It stinks. Fertilizer is horrible, but fertilizer is an energy source for plants in the soil. And so even the things that stink in our life, and even stuff that we create that makes it stink, right? Because we're also culprits in some of the pain that we bring in our life. God is so good that he uses even our bad decisions and the stuff that happens to us for his goodness, and ultimately for our maximum goodness. And I know sports is more than just entertainment. Sports is a mindset. The New Testament has a lot of analogies related to sports. Paul says, I fight like a boxer who's not beating the air. I'm trying to aim. I'm trying to hit something, I'm trying to penetrate the kingdom of darkness. And the way we penetrate the kingdom of darkness is by our goodness, by a lifestyle of worship, a lifestyle of prayer, like you've articulated so wonderfully. It's through a lifestyle of living in the word and living by the Spirit in intimacy with the Holy Spirit. And I know you have those ingredients in your life, and I know everything you touch, man, is gonna turn to gold and not to mold. And even when it does turn to mold, where they're gonna extract penicillin out of that mold, because that's the God we serve, and he's going to bless you. And my prayer is that God would just continue to bless your academic endeavors, your business endeavors, your relationships, and that you would find contentment and meaning even outside of sports, right? Just helping people solve their problems. Whether you're an engineer, whether you're doing, finance advising, whether you are building homes, Airbnbs, like your parents do, like you're solving people's problems, and you're making people find God's comfort and God's solutions into their life. So I pray that you would continue to be more than a basketball player, but also have fun and let that lion roar, like you said, and just be that beast out there, and be able to dominate this next year. That South Alabama would dominate. That maybe you guys, and my prayer is that you guys would win on a high level, if not the highest level, March Madness. Like you guys can do this, Many teams have come and won. I remember Liberty University won, just underdogs. And not to say you guys are underdogs like that, but and you would lead the way through principle, through prayer, through passion, and through high level performance, and then take those things that you learn on the court and apply them into everything you do. So I'm rooting for you. The Hakimians are rooting for you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Praying for blessings, and this is going to be a wonderful year for you, man, because of the God who's in you, who is like Paul said. And Steph Curry's favorite verse, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I know that you can do all things through Christ. Can you end with a word of encouragement to athletes who are suicidal, depressed, angry, frustrated, thinking twice about their existence? Because, again, it's easy for us to get obsessed with what we do, like our work, our student athlete activities, right? For a lot of ball players, like, being a ball player is like their identity. Like, it's like, I'm a rapper, I'm a model, I'm a basketball player, I'm a football player. What's your word of encouragement to your co-athletes and younger athletes? And what would you say, like, God is saying to them as an athlete? Because we know there's a lot of high-level Christians in the NFL, NBA, MLB. Like, it almost seems that they're almost taking even soccer, like football, global. Like, Christians are really penetrating Hollywood, high-level professional sports, because it's almost like you need God to handle not just the physical requirements, but the mental and emotional, spiritual requirements to be an athlete, because everything's pulling at you, and contracts and media, and then people are bad talking you and the blogs and the podcasts, so it can become ferocious. But what would you say to those young athletes or other college athletes that are losing the love of the game? They're not enjoying it. They're getting trapped into addiction, whether it's porn or drugs. They're smoking weed when they're off the court. That's happening everywhere. And they're starting to lose their way. And sometimes they're even keeping in privacy. Like, their parents don't know, their coaches don't know. The team chaplain doesn't know until it's too late. What would you say to that high school and college student? And then I would love for you to end with a prayer for them.
Yeah. So first I would say, one, you're not alone. I think one thing that the devil likes to try to do is isolate you and try to make you feel like, oh, I'm the only one who feels this way. I'm the only one who is going through this. Like, no, you're not alone. You have more times than not, a lot of us athletes feel the same way. More times than not, we all understand we're here for you. One. Two is we have to understand the battle is not against flesh and blood, and like I said, the devil tries to isolate you, but you can't fight him on your own. And so the other thing is, please, like find Jesus. He wants you. He desires you to come to him, man, I think once you have him in your heart, and once you're able to truly love him and seek him, the Bible says it, like, if you seek him, he will make himself known to you. He will be there. And so I think we have to understand that the battle isn't against worldly things, but like the devil, and how you fight him is with God's word, and with the Holy Spirit. And so the other thing, like, that's the only thing I'd say is like Jesus is calling you, like he wants you, he loves you, and he'll always be there for you. Like he's at the door knocking, you just have to open, and so, and there are people around who are open and willing to, walk you through what that means, whether it be, finding my account and asking me, what that looks like, what a relationship with God looks like, what it means to be a follower of Christ, all that type of stuff. There are people around who are more than willing to, be there for you and help you through whatever it is, because, none of us are perfect. We all make mistakes. And so we're not going to judge you. We're not going to, do any of that. But like, please, like, like you were saying, before it's too late, Jesus loves you. He's at the door knocking. All you got to do is open. And that's it.
Amen. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you being on this podcast with me, and I'm looking forward to catching up with you when the season starts and talking about some of the highlights of the games. I pray that God would keep your body strong, healed. You would be eating the right vitamin, getting the right vitamin, the right workouts, and that everything is great with you. Okay, appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Appreciate that.
Right. Thank you, guys. Peace.
Welcome to the Jack Hakimian Podcast, where we dive deep into life, embracing the contrast. From culture to faith, art to finances, politics and everything in between, we're taking chances. Jack Hakimian Podcast, we shine a light, exploring all of life from day to night. Nothing is off the table, we keep it real. Diverse perspectives, the truth we reveal.